in light of Rick Bradley being out of town tonight, I'm taking over, so be patient with me. I would like to make a public content meeting that the meetings of the Mechanicsburg Area School District Board of Directors are being recorded and live streamed for the purpose of transparency and increased public access. The live stream, along with the recordings from previously held meetings, can be found on the school board's YouTube channel. And I believe we want to make, we're going to recognize a student tonight at 2.01 Central PA Spelling Bee Grand Championship.
Yes, very excited to be able to recognize one of our best and brightest, and I'm hoping that he doesn't ask us to spell anything. I don't think we can do it nearly as well as he can, but Mrs. Legore is here, and I'll let her do the official introductions and share a little bit about what our students have been up to.
Hi, I'm Angel Legore. I'm here to represent Mechanicsburg Middle School and their Spelling Bee program. I serve as the coordinator, and I have the honor of sharing Sai Panetti's Spelling Bee journey with all of you. Sai is a 7th grade student who recently placed 2nd in the WITF Central PA Spelling Bee Grand Championship. To get to this level of competition was no easy feat. There were a lot of hoops to jump through. So first, Sai first secured his place in the MMS Spelling Bee by outperforming his peers in the preliminary round, where every student had to take the test. Only 62 MMS students qualified. He then moved on to the MMS Spelling Bee competition, where he placed 1st, and he was the only student to spell every single word correctly. This then qualified him for the WITF Central PA Regional Spelling Bee Qualifier Test. From there, Sai placed in the top 34 spellers out of 200 from all across the region. And then he moved on to the next round of competition, which was the WITF Central PA Spelling Bee Grand Championship, which took place in Harrisburg. It lasted 16 rounds, and it went on for 3 hours. It was very intense, a lot of competitive spelling, but he ended up placing 2nd. So he's really here tonight just to show that Wildcats are full of grit, determination, and resilience. So, and then, Sai, anything you'd like to share?
I'd like to share that when I first started my spelling bee journey, when I was in 4th grade, I heard about the Elmwood Academy spelling bee that happened on the stage, and many of my friends encouraged me to do the spelling bee. I studied for many nights and days, and eventually I was on the stage. I not only did the spelling bee because it was fun, but because of the thrill when you're on stage, and it's like when your body's shaking, but you like it because you think you're gonna spell the word right, and you have the confidence. And once you spell the word right, you have that overwhelming relief that comes on you. And that's when I realized that no matter how many years that would pass by, I would continue spelling, and I would be really happy while I was doing it. That's what I have to add.
That's great.
Wow.
I have a serious question for you. What was the winning word?
The winning word was patriotism.
Okay.
But I got out on the word Lenten, which is a Christian festival that I really did not know.
But now you know how to spell
Yeah.
it.
What's your favorite word?
My favorite word is probably enseismology.
Okay, and what does that mean?
So it's basically, to my knowledge, it's studying earthquakes like seismology, except studying the frequency of it and how much it affects the world. And though I want to be a neurosurgeon, I really like how you find like natural disasters and you study them because I want to help the world when I grow up.
I think you'll be able to do all that. And your parents are smiling so big. Were they a big support for you?
They were the biggest support to me. They helped me study days and nights, and without them, I don't think I could have won the spelling bee at all.
Are you the best speller, though, out of the 3 of you?
Yeah.
I thought so. Thanks, buddy. You're so poised and articulate, and I know you'll be successful in your future career as a neurosurgeon. So good for you.
I can never spell enthusiasm. Can you spell that for me?
ENTHUSIASM.
And he said the word after it.
Uh-huh.
See? Protocol.
Yeah. So I always want to put a U after the E. I'm never right. Thank you.
Well, congratulations. You represented our district and your family and yourself so well, and we can't wait to see if there's more spelling bee challenges in the future, but even beyond that, I know you're going to continue to do great things. So congratulations. Good job.
It's amazing.
When we celebrate our students, we give them a little bit of swag here too, so.
Thank you so much.
Sign. Picture here. You want to grab your trophy? Where do you want us, Mr. Schwartz?
Let's see, how about over here?
Over
Would that be all right?
Yep. Come on, Mr. Black. There too.
Yeah, I'm still home.
Wonderful. All right, 1, 2, 3. Beautiful, thank you, congratulations.
Yep, that's all right, your hands are full.
Well, he'll do good on his SATs too. Keep studying those words.
You're welcome to stay if you'd like, but you're also welcome to head home too.
We understand if you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, parents,
Congratulations.
for your support.
And teacher.
Thank you so much. Bye.
All right, so we have nothing under 3, athletics and recreation, nothing under number 4, curriculum. So on to budget and finance, 5.01, Wildcat Foundation grants.
I'm gonna do everything I can to not steal his thunder because this was an exciting grant process this year, and I'm gonna let Mr. Pratt share it all with you. So, Mr. Pratt.
Thank you. Hello to everybody. I have information that's in the pamphlet, right, for the charts and stuff for the grants?
Yes.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I want to thank you for this opportunity to present our grant programs and what we're proposing for this year and a chance to talk about what we do. The programs are a big part of what we do at the Wildcat Foundation and our volunteer board, the time they put into stuff and how we try to organize. It's a year-to-year process. It goes up and down. It goes all over the place, but it's a fun process trying to figure stuff out. I'm grateful in my job because I get to see a glimpse of what teachers do, what programs are in the school district, and how they build extra opportunities to learn, grow, and adapt in the school district. Education is constantly evolving, changing. The school district is growing, so for us, there are just opportunities to help, and it's kind of a neat position to be in. Our grants committee met on March 19th, led by our board president, Aisha Noma. She also heads our grants committee. And we reviewed our grant applications for the school year. We started the conversation in an advantageous position this year because we had a good fundraising year. And a couple different factors played into that. We did well in our event fundraising led by our committee chair people for golf, Jennifer Shockey, for Wildcat Foundation Night, it's Courtney Farinelli, so we had successful fundraising events. We have a set of continuous donors and companies that provide ample support to us year over year. Crabtree, Rohrbaugh & Associates, and Norristown Bank both had $15,000 in donations this year, and it's been a continuous process for them the last couple of years. Select Medical had a $10,000 donation. RLS Construction, Capital Blue Cross, Morgenstein DeFalsis Rehab Institute all donated more than $5,000. They're kind of a foundation of what we get every year that helps build what we have. We have two things that stood out this year that we won't exactly find a way to replace next year. One is a continuing process. We have an anonymous donor who has donated over $70,000 over the past 6 or 7 years. The person did another $15,000 donation this year. It's targeted towards food or nutrition within the school district. She talked to her a few times, or I've reached out to her a few times. She wants to stay anonymous. She has nothing more beyond it, beyond trying to help the school district. And then the biggest impact we had this year was a partnership that formed out of a connection with a former board member and talking to people. But Faulkner Subaru of Mechanicsburg takes part in, Subaru has a national program called Share the Love. They run it every year in December. It's a sales program where they donate a portion of their proceeds from every car sale and then every maintenance job that they do within their shops. So each local dealership picks a nonprofit to partnership with. This year, Faulkner Subaru worked with us. Then they offer options. You can donate to 4 charities, which they do a lot of wildlife support, or you have the local option. So that went on December. It's a 6-week process, I think. They came to our Wildcat Foundation night to do a check presentation for it. There's no promise of what they would get from it, and it was an awkward conversation talking to them because I would welcome anything they could do. It was just a neat setup. On our end, we just promote what we do and talk about what we are. On their end, they're the ones that push the process. So they gave us a $34,000 check at Wildcat Foundation night. $28,000 came from the Share the Love program. So it was a big influx into what we raised this year and then what we put out. The opportunities that arise, or the connections we make, matched up this year with the opportunities we got for the grants. We had 36 grant applications this year, which was up from about 20 last year, and about matching where it was 2 years ago. So far in my 4 years of doing this, I can't tell you which way it's going to flow all the time. But we had 20 new program requests in there. We also have 11 programs that we fund through EITC funding through the Department of Community and Economic Development. Our group met that night. We talked for over 2 hours. We got a scoring system we do with board members too, to review the grant applications to decide how we're going to do the funding. From that meeting, our recommendations on the chart, we have a section we call budgeted grants, which is $64,000 and $210 we're proposing for this year. And then we budget out the EITC funding for the next year because it's a fluctuating process again too. We have a budget of a minimum of $45,000 in funds for that. So our total grant expectation this year is $109,210. It's the second highest grant total we will have had in 26 years. And Subaru is a big part of that for what they put into it. We got extra money, and this year it matched up great to be able to hand out extra money for it. I have a list of some highlights for some of the grants that are on that list, and they include some of the things we were able to do this year with some of this money. There are 2 things we provided this year, some out of our health and nutrition and food fund. We did a $10,000 donation to the food pantries this past fall because SNAP funding and federal government funding led to shortages, so we were able to provide help at all the schools in the district. We did this spring, we did another $10,000 donation out of the food and nutrition fund to help set up snack banks at each of the 5 elementary schools with help with student services and Bethany Bridges. And we hope, we'll be purchasing 4 replacement dishwashers for the FCS program at the middle school this spring for Mr. Hoffman to install and put in. All those came out of our purpose. Aisha has done a great job, and she's done the grants for the past 2 years, making a push to be proactive and finding where we can put some of the money to help, not just waiting for people to apply to the grants for us, but also to go out and seek ways that we can help to match up some of our funding. Funding that came out of the grants meeting that we will have in for the budget next year, if it's approved. We have $10,000 planned for supporting CPR training in the school district. It's 2 sets of programs. We have $4,300 targeted toward the marching band, proposed to purchase trombones. It would be for equipment of whatever they need. We have $3,500 supporting sensory rooms within the school district for sensory needs students. We have $1,500 to support the Link Crew program at the high school, which will be in its 2nd year. It's a new program that started last year. We have $5,000 to support it's the Learn Initiative program at the high school. It's to expand what they're offering to their students. It's the first time they've asked for stuff for us, and it's a neat program to put some funding behind and see what they do. We will also have $5,000 to support 5 different library programs within the district, which is reading programs based on books that we have for them. And the last note on our funding sheet is on there. This year, we did not receive any applications for athletics. That's one of our 4 core areas that we support. In a world where I try to watch for what patterns are for 3 or 4 years, and I can't always describe what the patterns are going to be, 2 of the impacts from that seem to have an impact on her. One were the elimination of the 10% budget fees for athletic programs and booster clubs that allows them to have more money. And 2, a year ago, we established that we didn't want to fund blanket sports camps and trips. We wanted to target money more towards specific athletic needs. Those were some portions of the grants we would receive for athletics. We have an extracurricular fund established to help students that need help. Athletics and clubs and anything else attending that they would apply for through the student services account then too. It's so much, it was interesting a year ago, we had less money raised, we had fewer grant opportunities, and we were able to fund a lot of what we did. We were able to fund 95% of what we received applications for this year. 34 of the 36 grants, some of the grants fit into other categories where we have money targeted for it. So it's, again, I don't know which way things always flow, it just matched up nicely this year. There was a chance for us to offer more help, and we had the opportunity to get more applications from teachers.
I'll just say from my perspective, I was excited. I always get a chance to review the applications before and provide some feedback to the foundation before they go through the grant applications. And I was just excited about the array, and you obviously pointed out some of the categories, if you will, that they fell in, but just a great array of experiences and ideas, and just really neat variety.
I'd also like to extend thanks to Mr. Pratt, because under his leadership, that's why a lot of this is happening. He's helping us to keep moving forward and watching those trends and encouraging us in many things and supporting us. So.
Yeah, I wanted to say I affirm that decision of the foundation to hire somebody in that role. That was the key decision.
It's a neat opportunity and time to do it. There again, I think the key is for us, and the volunteer board members go and do it too. We meet with teachers to discuss grant opportunities, and then I get to do it a lot. And I think it's the biggest thing we can do, keep doing, is being proactive and trying to find ways to. We're proactive in getting people to apply for grants, but proactive in talking about what we do, but also proactive in finding what needs might be. Things change all the time. I feel for school boards and teachers that this environment is constantly developing and good and bad changes. But it's neat from my perspective going out trying to find out where are little ways for us to help or make a difference and see what that is. I'm fascinated by education and how it always changes. And I said it before, my daughter's in the school district, my son graduated from here. Big fan of what they went through, what they are going through. I think this is a fantastic school district, and this just reinforces that to me when I go talk to all these teachers in these programs. It's a great setup, a lot of hardworking teachers trying to do something more. So.
I think it's worthy to note too that over the last 26 years, you've given away almost $1.5 million. So
it speaks to the generosity of the community supporting everything too. There are donations come up and down all over the place. It's neat. It's the same way you build connections and talk to people and why they do it. People have reasons to support here, oftentimes related to their children, oftentimes related to their grandchildren, and coming back to the district and just trying to, a lot of stories about what they got from their education here and why they want to give back. We just started, we'll have our scholarships come up this month and we'll give them out at the senior award ceremony. We have another family that the gentleman passed away, Ronald Baker. He was involved in depth in baseball in this area, and they set up a scholarship in his name out of it because of the impact from the Mechanicsburg community from playing here. The different ways that people try to help is pretty fascinating too. I think there's a lot of people that want to do something if they can. It's great that we can connect them and find a way to do something with that.
So next step would be this list of grants would come before the board at the next voting meeting, and you all would approve that then for us to be able to accept that money for the public use.
It reiterated a message I got when I took over this job from my predecessor. She said the number one the number one reason this foundation can find success is because of the relationship with the school district and the school board and the support we get back from it. It's true from where I see it with other connections, and I talk to other education foundations about stuff. It's invaluable. I get a lot of support from the district for what I do, but just in general, that back and forth makes this process work so much better. So it's appreciated on our end very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for everything you've done.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's amazing.
All right, so we'll move that on for our future day to vote on that. Next on the agenda is 5.02, the food service budget with
Our annual visit from Mrs. Marlin. It's great to have her here, our food director extraordinaire. We have traditionally at this time of year been able to sit down and look at the food services budget. Remember, this is a budget separate from our general fund, so we always have to look at it and approve it separately. And Mrs. Marlin will take us through a presentation that talks a little bit about the program itself and some of the things happening in food services in general, and then dig into the budget itself and some of the numbers for next year. So I'll turn it over to you, Mrs. Marlin.
So we're going to just run through some PowerPoint presentation, food service overview. As Dr. Bitts said, the food service budget is separate from the general fund. So what we feel our role is that we're serving students, supporting families and strengthening learning. We're an integral part of the school district, and we feel that our role is to support administration, students, parents, staff. This is important because students need meals, they need nutrition to learn. We can provide reliable daily nutrition, and there's a growing need in our community, and we are able to help families with support for school meals. So participation, currently for breakfast, we are So one of the things we're very proud we've been able to do, and thanks to our legislator, is offer breakfast free for all students. That was a Pennsylvania initiative starting with the 23-24 school year. That is permanent now. It is in school code, so it would have to be changed to not be funded. In addition to the free school breakfast, lunches are funded by the state, so if a student is approved for free or reduced meals, there's no charge to those students. In addition, we do receive severe need breakfast funding. That is additional federal funding because of the number of free reduced students we feed for lunch in the second preceding year. Some of the strengths I feel are our strong lunch participation. We are accessible to all students. No student ever denied a meal, and of course, our amazing staff who, without this, would not be possible. We follow all of the guidelines of the federal and state meal programs, so that includes hazard analysis, critical control point. That's just a big lot of letters for time and temperature, so all of those rules. Staff training, so each kitchen is required to have a person in charge who is ServSafe certified, and we go above and beyond that we have the majority of our staff is trained in ServSafe. Staffing, we're always looking at staffing and operational improvements. With the addition of Angela Giordano last year, being appointed as assistant food service director. Not quite yet. There's a clear leadership structure. We feel that that's led to improved communication. We're able to hold more regular kitchen manager meetings and reinforce consistent expectations with more visibility at the schools. So this is something fun that we've partnering with Messiah University. Actually, I have interns with us right now. They've been taste testing some new menu items over at Northside. We'd like to taste test items with students just to see if they're going to be successful. So they survey students and they taste test. If you want to go over to Northside Thursday, they'll be taste testing the popcorn chicken bowl at the elementary level. It's a big hit at secondary. We haven't done it at elementary, so we're going to see how that goes. And
Dr. Roos will hit that up, I'm sure.
Probably. He did mention he's a fan. So it's great that we are able to partner with Messiah University. I'm a preceptor for their dietetic master's program, I guess it is now. So as part of the rotation, if you want to be a registered dietitian, you go through your coursework, and then your final year you do a rotation, and there's a 2 to 3 week school food service rotation. So I am the preceptor for that rotation. And we've started that, gosh, many, many years ago.
So that was the high school.
A long time ago. Yes. So a couple of things we do for sustainability and equity. We have share bags at all of our schools. So the way that works is that students are required to take certain components and or items to make a reimbursable meal. If a student doesn't want to eat that item, they can put it in the share bag. And then students who want additional menus, additional food, fruits, vegetables, whatever's in their share bag, they can take those out and eat those. We look at local sourcing for purchasing when possible, and that helps us give equal access to all students. So that's just an overview. Any questions as far as food service?
I love learning about that share bin. My daughter was always getting from it because she loves the extra fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, so as part of a reimbursable meal, students can take up to 2 fruits and 2 vegetables. So if students are fruit or vegetable lovers, they can usually find something pretty good in the share bag.
There are kids that watch that share bag like
Yeah.
and they're just waiting for somebody to go put something up in there and asking, can I go to the share bag?
So what does that look like share bag?
It's literally a big red bag that's usually in the front of the cafeteria, and students can drop things in it, and then any other student can raise their hand and say, hey, can I go up to the share bag and see what's in there? And
So like I saw like cooked broccoli.
Well, they're all
No,
individually
bags.
packed.
Okay, that's what I was trying to.
bag of carrots
Say,
or
my son really likes broccoli, and so I'm trying to imagine him share bagging someone else's broccoli.
Yeah.
chocolate milk.
Yeah, so there is a waiver to the food code in Pennsylvania that if you follow certain steps to have a share bag, a share table, it's called different things, and we follow all those standards, that we're maintaining it, it's being monitored, it's being maintained at the proper temperature, so we that's how we are allowed to administer
I
that.
figured it had to be. I just wasn't getting the picture.
Like corn.
Karen, I ask this question every year to you. The free and reduced lunches and I know we kind of redistrict years ago to make, that kind of an even kill across the district. Is it still that way? And what is our percentage now?
So I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
That was just kind of the big picture. Now we're going to get into the specifics of the budget. Sorry, not to put your question. It's a great question. So as we mentioned, the goal of the food service department is to be self-supporting. We are currently self-supporting. That depends on participation and reimbursement. That is what drives our revenue. We are looking at some challenges, as you all are seeing, regarding food costs and labor costs. Negative account balances, so we want to speak to this a little bit because we are seeing an increase in our negative account balances. I talked to food food service directors in neighboring districts, and they're seeing probably about double that projected amounts, around $30,000, $40,000 negative balances. So that is something that we're aware of. We are keeping, monitoring that. What this means is that there's increasing unpaid meal debt. As you know, no student is ever denied a meal. So if a student does not have money in their account, have not been approved for free or reduced meals, we debit their account. That's an indication that more families are struggling. There's more, which also puts more financial pressure on the program. I think part of the reasons are because there's a gap. So you have to apply for the meal program. It's based on the number of household and your household income. So if you're a family that just doesn't quite meet that guideline to receive those meals, you still need those meals. So there's a gap between eligibility and need. And that shows in the rising cost of living for everyone that everyone is feeling. So this is looking at eligibility and participation over a couple of years snapshot. Currently, district enrollment, our free and reduced eligibility percent is 38.9% overall for free and reduced, and then our paid eligibility. And our district-wide participation for lunch is 54%.
I think if we could just go back there for a
Yes.
second.
Oops, sorry, Paul.
No, that's
Hold on.
fine.
Very good, thank you.
I think the other piece from that previous slide, and you don't need to go back to the previous one, but is the application piece as well. The reality is that our demographic suddenly hasn't gone from 48% free and reduced to suddenly 38%. But there is a reality to not just the gap that exists, but also the application that has to be filled out in order to receive that and be able to be approved for it. So ultimately, these are the percentages based on those who have applied and been approved, which I think is an important distinction.
The bottom column there, so those would be like, so 54% would be taking the lunches and 46 would be packing or providing
Correct.
them. Yeah. Okay.
What's paid percent eligible?
So you have students who are free reduced eligible, and then your students who have not applied for free and school meals, so they're your paid students.
Oh, they're paying every day.
If they purchase meals, yes.
Okay.
You often hear kind of the comparison among districts of what's your percent free and reduced, and then what's your percent paid. And the free and reduced percentage is a helpful socioeconomic indicator to say, you know, where do we stand among other schools, and how does that impact our food service program, or the offerings of our food service program.
When you hear like Title I,
Title I.
that's based on these numbers, right? These percentages.
Yes, significantly so. And to your question about where is the balance of the buildings, so before the reconfiguration, we actually had almost a 30% difference between the SES percentage of a couple of our elementary buildings and our most neediest buildings, 30% difference. We ultimately, as part of that reconfiguration, one of the pillars that we based that reconfiguration on was lowering that percentage, to your point, lowering that gap. So at the time, we got it down to about 10% as being the gap between those schools. It has risen a little bit, but nowhere near the 30% it was at the time. I think we just looked at that, and I think it was about almost 15, but again, nowhere near the 30.
Yeah, I think even when we redistricted, it was probably less than the 10%. I would say we are probably dead on within
We were closer,
3%.
like 8 or 10%.
5%.
So it varies a little bit year to year, but really narrowed the gap significantly from the 30% difference. And then it is something, as Dr. Britt shared, that we do look at on an annual basis or look at a trend over time. And while it's a little bit bigger, it's certainly closer to this.
Did you do that by redrawing the lines that feed into the elementary schools?
Somewhat, obviously because we changed which schools were the primary buildings altogether, that adjusted some of those. But but there were some developments that we continued to go to their historic elementary schools, if you will. The other piece that at the time was a big aspect to it was where we'll be providing services to our English learners, which that has now grown to the point where we're providing those services now in 3 buildings. At the time of the reconfiguration, we were just doing 2. So that contributes somewhat based on some correlation there that historically we had, but that correlation isn't as strong anymore as what it was at that time. So a lot of things have changed, even since the reconfiguration, about how the different dynamics are across the primaries.
Well, I just find it interesting the Wildcat Foundation is supporting the food service program as well. I think that's really.
Well, not the food service
Not the
program,
food service
but
program.
some of the food nutrition programs that,
It's supplemental items.
yes.
I think just going back also to the food negative balances, Mr. Longwell, if you want to talk about how that ends up being covered, if you will, how that impacts our.
And I appreciate Dr. Bitts mentioning it because I was going to mention it at some point here in the presentation, but our food service fund has traditionally, I'll say, paid overhead back to the general fund. And there's a couple pieces to that. One, I think it's a signal as to how efficient our program is, and it's kudos to Mrs. Marlin and her team. Not many school districts can do that, and where the general fund is being repaid some money by the food service fund. But also within that, we understand because of the regulations that the food service fund can't carry these negative balances in it. It does ultimately come over the general fund, but that is more than offset by, it's about between $200,000 and $225,000, I think, the last couple of years annually that the food service fund has been reimbursing the general fund for overhead costs. And so while there is some negative balances there that are coming over the general fund, it's more than offset by those amounts that are being reimbursed for overhead services and things of that nature. So.
And I'll also point out, and I won't name anyone because I'm sure to miss some and some were anonymous, but we've had a number of donors over the years, both from organizations such as churches, but also private donors also that have said we want to give this specifically towards negative balances.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's another resource too, as far as negative balances or supporting students in need. And we are fortunate to have the community we do that, whether it's the foundation or generous individuals or other organizations, how we run our food service fund, all of it comes together in terms of ultimately supporting our students, especially those who have some particular needs.
So challenges we're looking at, like I said, food costs, labor is always a little bit of a challenge. We have a kind of a niche where we have part-time positions. We love our retirees. We love our parents who want to be home in the morning and the afternoon. So that's really where we target, and we've got great people, but we're always looking for that. There is turnover and increasing community need. So some opportunities for growth. You did see that we were below the Pennsylvania average for our breakfast participation. So we're always looking at ways to improve that, working with principals on different ideas. We're looking at menu innovation. Our revenue is generated by participation, so we want to make sure we're engaging students through menu options, flexibility, and strengthening staff development.
How are the breakfast menus developed? Because a lot of times, like my kid looks at them and she's like, it's all sugar stuff. She doesn't want
So we follow all the federal and state guidelines. So there are strict requirements for sugar, sodium, the amount of portions of fruits and vegetables, the colors of fruits and vegetables. So we take all of that into consideration. So all of our menus are in compliance with those standards. You might look at the menu and think it's sugar, but we also, all of the baked goods we offer are whole grain. They are reduced sugar baked goods. There are increased standards for low sugar for starting next school year. So we will be working and be in compliance for those. Cheese sticks, yogurt, milk, fruits, dry fruits, fresh fruits. So there's a variety. Students don't have to take the muffin. They can make a breakfast with, breakfast is items, has to be different. So breakfast, they have to take any 3 items to make a reimbursable meal. They can take up to 5 at the elementary level. At the secondary level, we count, it's a bigger entree because we offer hot breakfast sandwiches. So those count as 2 items. They just have to take 1 additional item. So students, again, can add additional fruits and choices to that. So one thing that we started, it came out of a collaboration with actually Stacey Alexander at Broad Street, was she was having students come to school without snacks. She talked to me and said, what can you do for snacks? I said, there's nothing we can do for snacks, but we can offer snack type items at breakfast. So at breakfast, we have a sweet snack and a savory snack that students can either have at breakfast, so picture like a Scooby, Graham, Cheez-Its, Goldfish pretzels, all whole grain, that can either be eaten in the classroom or save for a snack. So that was a great partnership that is really benefits food service because breakfast participation numbers increase and students get a snack, and that's fewer teachers having to pay out of pocket or whatever to provide those snacks. And the snacks meet all the compliance for the snack foods, the smart snack program. So it's just an example.
I think sometimes with menu design, it's also a little bit of a balancing act between what are the regulations that we live with and that are changing through the years, what opportunities might exist to have a different looking menu, different options, but then also how is all of that balanced against what the students ultimately choose or would like to buy, because they have some choice, some degree of choices that come through the lines too, and so trying to find that just right balance. And then Mrs. Marlin's continuing to look at that with the team to say, how can we grow our program or how do we design our menus? It's a good ongoing conversation.
Actually, this week I'm going to State College. The Pennsylvania Department of Ed is hosting a school breakfast summit, so I'll be attending that and looking for new ideas. Budget overview. So this does include the indirect cost calculation. We're looking at total projected revenue of approximately $3 million and expenses of $3,400,000 with a deficit of about $346,000. This budget does not reflect the increase in meal prices, and these are the prices from this year and actually last school year, and we are not asking for an increase.
I would say, if I may, Mrs. Marlin, sorry. This is a little bit like the general fund in that we have a budget deficit on paper. Our goal through the years is certainly to break even if we can. There are some years where that might be more challenging, but in this particular case, we adopt the budget as it is with a goal of trying to regain or cover the ground to get to that break-even place. And it's just something that we monitor on a year-to-year basis. The other thing that we look at in terms of, well, how comfortable are we with the projected deficit in the budget is a little bit of, well, how much reserves do we have also in each of the funds? And so in terms of the food service fund, where are we at with our cash and investment balances? We have similar conversations with our general fund about where our fund balance is. So all of those are factors in how we triangulate to, this is the budget deficit that we're comfortable recommending to the school board.
Putting another way, even more specifically, our reserves in the food services realm are healthy, quite healthy enough that we don't need to raise meal prices as we did last year. And while we officially have some equipment and those kinds of things earmarked for some of that money, if we need to, certainly in a place where we don't need to raise our meal prices, which is great.
So looking at revenue specifically, the majority comes from federal and federal reimbursement, state reimbursement, and local. So local is made up of investment income and our paid meals sales, a la carte revenue and adult meal revenue. Expenses, the majority are salaries and benefits and food purchases. We are piloting a MASD summer lunch program this summer. Still working out some specifics of that, but more information to come on that. So as in summers past, we are offering free breakfast to our students attending middle school, summer school, which includes middle school, summer school, ESY, and ELD. And the MASD summer lunch is funded through community support. So our mission is to serve students and best support the school district and students and families the best way we can. Any questions, additional questions?
Mrs. Marlin, could you go back just a couple slides? I just want to point out. So yes, to that one. So the evolution of this is that we had, during the pandemic, we obviously had a very robust meal program. Even prior to that, we had some different years where we had lunches at Elmwood. I forget if we had them at the high school year, but we had a summer meal program that was running for several years. Coming out of the pandemic, we had obviously the meals that were by pickup and delivery. So that was going on for a while. And then we kind of shifted to a focus on how could we partner with the rec program and their playground program. So at that time, it was both at where Summer Adventure Camp is, but also at Kozer Park and Fisher Park. Ultimately, as we've studied that over the last couple of years between Mrs. Marlin and Mrs. Heron and just feedback, realized we really weren't hitting the folks that we needed to hit with that program. I will tell you that my kids went to the playground program. They enjoyed getting the lunch. They could have easily walked the other block and had lunch at home. So it really wasn't the idea of hitting the population that we wanted to be able to hit and make this available for families in need. So we're trying a different approach, and you can see some different locations that we think are going to be able to allow us to have some centrality to some other groups that really might benefit from this program, and we're excited to see how it plays out.
Is that going to be like an everyday thing?
It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the plan is that there's going to be a different location each one of those days. There's going to be a sign-up element to it. There will be staff members and volunteers, so some opportunities to be tapping into our pastors network to be able to seek some volunteers perhaps too to be able to contribute to it. We're pretty excited about the possibilities.
And those summer programs are run by the rec department, right?
So MMS Summer School, ESY, and ELD are academic programs. The Summer Adventure Camp is the one that's the rec program.
But what about, there's also kind of at the park?
Yeah,
That's what we're kind of breaking.
The free summer playgrounds are at Kozer and then Winding Hills and Fisher. That's why they're included in service location. Those are the free summer playground locations.
Yes. I think to Dr. Hitz's point, we've kind of studied that and thought as we've gone through some different iterations of the summer meal program, we're always going to serve our programs in the summer, like summer school and so forth. But, we were kind of looking at that closer with that rec partnership at the playgrounds and saying, should there be something more? Should this look a little different? Can we reach, maybe more families in need? And so the latest iteration with the support of Mrs. Marlin and the team and Mrs. Bridges is to kind of evolve that a little bit further and kind of test it and see how the summer goes.
So I have a question about, have you seen any or do you anticipate any changes coming down from the federal government with like JFK Jr. kind of redoing nutrition, that kind of stuff?
Not yet. The reduced sugar is the last kind of phase of the nutritional standards that were put in place and phased in over several years. So usually it's a phase in. So there's nothing that I know of that we're not prepared for. And yeah,
Just wondering if anything's come to the schools yet.
there's been talk, but nothing specifically.
Well, I'm glad definitely to see that the prices haven't increased again, so that's great news for everybody.
Yes.
I'd like to say thank you also for what you do. I remember just not understanding all the things you did when I worked here, and people don't understand the complexity of your job, and everybody isn't always happy with the answers that you need to give them because you're following regulations and what's best for the kids. So thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate your support. Do it one more time.
Maybe more
Thank
than
you.
one.
Well, this will also move this forward to the next voting session.
Yes, so if nobody has any more questions, we can move it along. Thank you. All right, moving on to 5.04, which is the curb replacement at Elmwood Academy.
503.
What?
503.
Oh, darn it. I was skipping the medical stuff, sorry.
That's right.
5.03 is the medical access program.
Yes,
Can I imagine?
I'll pretty quickly turn this over to Mr. Longwell, but some of you who have been in education spheres for a while might be familiar with medical access to some degree. This is a program that allows us to be able to get reimbursement for different activities that our staff engages in with students that are medically access eligible. Ultimately, that would bring some dollars back into the district without any impact to that family's insurance. It's a program that does take oversight and commitment from the district to be able to make it worth your while. For a number of reasons as a district, going on almost 10, 12, maybe even a little bit more years ago, we had moved away from medical access. But as we're in a season to be able to look at what are some other sources of revenue for the district, while this involves some management, it's something we really need to be able to look into as another way to bring in a little bit of somewhat generally easy revenue that doesn't impact families. It's really just an impact on us as a system. So Mr. Long will take us through kind of an overview for it and what next steps we would be looking for from the board.
Thank you, Dr. Betts. So this evening, just a little bit of an overview on school-based access program. As we think about a little bit of an agenda here for the presentation, want to talk a little bit about the school-based access program. We want to review with you who is eligible from a student perspective and how that affects our reimbursements. The school-based access program, the acronym there, SBAP, payment methodology and how do we accrue dollars or additional revenues in this way, looking at next steps, and then also progress monitoring as we start up a new program with access. We always want to be reflective too of how it's going, what are opportunities to grow it as we get into the first year, maybe the second year, and do some evaluation of the program itself as we stand it up. So the school-based access program has actually existed in Pennsylvania since 1991. And as Dr. Betts mentioned, for a variety of reasons, we moved away from it a number of years ago, but especially as we enter a budget season in 26-27, where we've talked about some of the things around the budget, we've been thinking about opportunities to help improve our position for 26-27. And one of those things, and I appreciate the support of Dr. Betts' cabinet, our administration, in saying, let's go back and revisit the access program and see what types of money might be available in the form of an additional revenue stream. And so this is something we've been studying internally. Ultimately, the program itself is funded through health services that are being provided in IEPs for medical access students. I would just underscore something that Dr. Betts mentioned, in that The money that we would get through the school-based access program does not impact individual families. And so I know sometimes there's a little bit of concern that families might be losing their own entitlement. It's a completely separate program. This really is about situations where students are otherwise medical access eligible, their services written into their IEPs, and because we're providing services as a school district, we're able to claim some additional dollars associated with those services that we're offering as a school. It's operated through a partnership with DHS and PDE, supporting IDEA compliance, and then ultimately the program itself, in terms of the reimbursement and revenue, is operated on a cost-based model since 2012, and that's something that we're looking at in terms of what does reimbursements look like through that model moving forward. In terms of student eligibility, so you can see there's a number of factors that lead you to eligibility. So are the students under 21? Is there an IDEA disability? IEP services provided by the school district? Are they medical access eligible? And with those different variables, it does lead to eligibility to participate within the medical access program. And then when we're providing services for students with all of these eligible aspects, then we're able to get some additional revenue from the access program. And again, not impacting the individual families or what they're receiving in terms of support, but really some additional dollars for the school district in support of our programs and our services being provided. So the school-based access program payment methodology includes both direct services for what's being provided to students, specialized transportation. Ultimately, that could include also health services. Those are the direct services that we can claim and bill, and we get some additional monies in return. There's also the administrative claiming, which is an opportunity for our reimbursement of staff activities that support access to the services. So it could include things like coordinations, referrals, and as we've studied, this from a program standpoint, that would involve who's connected to the program. They might receive a random moment in time study to help see what type of allocation could be claimed for access. All that to say, it's a technical way to say, it's almost some overhead services that we can claim and get some additional dollars in return through the access program. And then ultimately there's an annual cost reconciliation and settlement at the year end to kind of true everything up and then determine the final reimbursement. So next steps, as we look at standing the program up, we talked with some of our colleagues about how they're running their programs, because really we'd like to find a way where we can bring the program online and be both efficient and effective in identifying an additional revenue stream for the school district. Part of that conversation led us to talking with the intermediate unit. They do provide support for the access program to school districts, and so we would be recommending a support agreement for next school year where they would come alongside us as we stand the program up and start it. They would provide support for things like training, thinking about compliance. There's a certain way that IEPs have to be written as well and reviewed as part of the access program. And so, we want to be efficient and effective in standing the program up and seeing how we can maximize some dollars. We recognize that in year one, we might not get it perfect, but our goal is to get it started, start to see what types of dollars are there, and then look for opportunities to continue to improve upon access billing and access revenues that we might be eligible for. Ultimately, as a district, we would be setting up procedures and coordinating with the IU. We would work to help train our staff and communicate expectations. So what does that look like in terms of roles and responsibility within our teams for our staff and our administrators? Identifying students and services and obtaining consent as part of the medical access program. That's part of the how we get reimbursement. Working with families, collecting documentation and setting up claiming, and then ultimately ensuring ongoing compliance throughout the annual process. So as we continue down this path, and as we start the program up in year one, we would just be looking at the program, reviewing it each year for effectiveness and compliance. We'd be continuing to update on participation, claims, and reimbursements, where we're able to regularly report those, check in on how we're doing, and then continue to look how we could continue to grow the program and see what type of revenue might be available to the school district through the medical access.
The goal really of the consultant is to be able to have someone help you establish the systems to make it productive and to get, really to be able to maximize the amount of revenue that you are bringing in. And really the goal is that person will be able to help establish that next year, probably a little bit beyond. But the goal, and it's not an unreasonable goal, is to be making enough revenue that ultimately you're able to then hire a support staff person who you're using some of the revenue you've gained to pay that person, where the consultant would then train that person to be able to take over for the consultant, and then you're no longer paying the consultant. So that's the hope, is that we'll be able to get the program up and running enough that we're able to do that in the next couple of years. And again, based on the numbers of a majority of our neighbors, we're pretty slow to the table on this. Based on the majority of our neighbors, that's not an unreasonable goal to have in the next couple of years.
And some of it will be a process where we continue to grow the program just because of like how our IEPs are written, how we continue to build the program out and receive revenues. But I think Dr. Bitts did a nice job of articulating, you know, step one is this coming year with the consultant, and then we'll continue to build it from there as we look for opportunities to support the budget.
Who provides the oversight for this? Will this be student services, special ed, business, office?
Primarily Mrs. Ely, but there's no doubt that special education has a huge role in it, but Mrs. Ely is being the point person for it.
I was just wondering, I mean, how much revenue are you expecting to gain? I know it'll probably, the more you learn, the more you think you're going to be able to train, but.
I'll say this, the first part I'll say, and we've kind of come back and mentioned here in the presentation, growing the program, there are some nuanced pieces to the medical access program in terms of what the revenues are you get, how do you get them, how's the dollars accrued. I do think it's reasonable to say within the first few years we could maybe start to see maybe 100,000, 200,000, I think is a goal. I mean, maybe it could be beyond that. I'd hate to commit to too high of a number, but let's just say conservatively, I think it would be reasonable to say 100 or 200,000 per year is at least initially some thoughts around that.
So do you get like one check a year reimbursement, or is this something that you get income every month, or?
So through through the Department of Education, there's a place where we can look at our access dollars as we accrue them, and they'll accrue through either direct services that we're claiming and providing information to the state on, or the random moments in time study, kind of the administrative claiming is another element of it, where the money can become accrued into that kind of bucket, if you will. And so as we're providing services and as we're claiming those services throughout the year, there's also the final reconciliation. I guess I'll have to say there's different points where the money will be flowing into what the district has available to it. And then as we get a better feel for how much money that is, then I think we can begin to make some plans about, like Dr. Bitts mentioned, might we hire a support staff member to help the program and support the program? Maybe if the dollars are significant enough, are there some additional supports maybe that we need in special ed that might be funded through access, the funding that we get available to us? And so I think there's a variety of opportunities, but it is coming periodically throughout the year, to answer your question.
My last question, probably, well, maybe not my last question, but can we get any reimbursement for any of the vans or the?
Yeah. So if the vans, and again, this goes a little bit back to the services provided for our students. Are they the criteria? Are they medical access eligible students? The short answer is some of the transportation, specialized transportation, we can claim and receive some reimbursement for. Now that's separate and aside from, you know, our state reimbursement for all of our vans and buses that we receive across the board for the district. This is more specific to vans for specialized needs, and we can get some money back.
What can you tell me to reassure me that for a child, because right now we're recommending services to them based on what they need, right? But now they're possibly revenue generating. So how do we assure that the services that we're recommending for a student is not going to be driven by like how much revenue can they provide?
I think the first thing I would mention is the way we accumulate revenue is so nuanced that, like, Bobby and I aren't gonna go out to the 8 buildings and explain all the detail of that, or that they'll know, ask for this service or that service because it generates this amount of money. I think there's gonna be just a natural separation between, like, what the special ed's taking care of things with IEPs, we're programming for what the students' needs are, and then really on the back end of that, we're kind of saying, okay, if they are access eligible and there's certain services provided, we can claim those for reimbursement, but we're not really going into it proactively thinking, well, if we provide this service or that service, it might result in this much money.
I would say the best check in the system is that even though this is an exciting possibility for revenue, it's nowhere near the expenses of adding any of the services that we would actually be having to do. So we ultimately are not going to benefit by adding another van run or saying somebody needs a van when they don't really need a van. It's going to still be far more expense than what the reimbursement is going to be. Adding a student to a related service like speech or OT or PT is going to cost us far more than the reimbursement that we're going to get. So ultimately, I think that's the best check. Now, accumulated across all those services, across all the students, across the entire school year, it'll give us a nice little bit of revenue. But for any given student, we're not going to benefit by adding services that the kid doesn't really need.
And I think, you know, from my perspective, that's a great question, right? You know, in that medical access world, some of those service providers are so overwhelmed with caseload already that we're not sending them, you know, so I do the clinical interventions for children on IEPs who could be, you know, social emotional disturbance, whatever it is. But, you know, when you're sharing speech, PT, OT across a district, and, you know, they're getting into the building for half a day or a full day, they're so overwhelmed and strung out a little bit that really only the children who really, really need those services are being offered those services and being supported by them. So I do think, I mean, in my experience, it's been done with great fidelity and care around that, because there's just not enough time or space to sort of be like, well, maybe, and you know, sometimes on my end, it'll be like, well, can you see this kid for just 100 minutes? What? What does that mean, 100 minutes? How can you even bill? I'm so confused, right? And I'm like, is that over a whole year? 100 minutes. So yeah, I mean, there are ways that for those who don't totally qualify or meet all of these requirements set forth, you can massage that a little bit. Currency, this kid for 100 minutes, and then we'll see what you think. So that's kind of how my experience has been managing it. So it's a great program, helps provide additional supports for some of those kids who might not otherwise be seen.
Right. I'll say, I appreciate your comments, thank you. And to Dr. Bitz's point, I think he really, in a succinct way, kind of highlighted that it's really not dollar for dollar reimbursement. So I would say it's like a lot of our other reimbursement basis of grants or subsidies. So like transportation, we receive a certain percentage of transportation reimbursement, but we kind of set our transportation system up the way we want it to be set up and then let the reimbursement flow from it. And I would say the same thing for access, that it's what do we need to provide, what should we provide that's right for the students, and then just let the reimbursement flow from it.
So if there's support, the next step would be bringing forward the contract with the IU to be able to agree to that consultant coming forward.
So the consultant's coming from the IU.
Correct.
Are we running all of the expenses through them too at that point, or not? Just
So they're coming alongside of us to help stand the program up in terms of what does reporting look like, how's the program structured, what types of training do we need for our staff, and then we would, as a district, be doing the reporting and accumulating of expenses, and then receiving the reimbursement. We're really, the relationship's more consulting based, where we're paying them to help us in that regard, and then we'll you know, what the process is.
So I'm assuming this is gonna fall under the big audit that we do every year too. So it's just another entity that, you know, the auditor's gonna come in here and make sure we're doing that all by the book too.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a chance they could audit, so, you know, being a former auditor, we could talk a lot about that. I'll keep it very short. When auditors audit the federal programs, they look for like A and B programs, and they're looking for coverage. Because access is the number that it is, it likely wouldn't get picked as a major program anyway, even though it is federal dollars.
And I just sense that that would be a place where they would focus to see what we might be doing wrong or what we're claiming that we aren't really doing, that kind of thing. And I'm assuming that's where the paperwork, the logging of what we're doing is so crucial to be able to prove that, you know, we deserve this federal money because of this. So I would assume that a big part of this is to keep the records, and that's where you need the consultant.
Yes. Yeah, the consultant to help us start it, make sure we're doing it the way it should be done. Are we doing it efficiently, effectively? And then we would be prepared if everyone ever wanted to audit it, then they would. But
Anybody have any other questions?
I'll say it's a great thing. I feel I retired in 2020, and I'd say 5 to 10 years before that, we were trying to figure out how to do that because it takes time and it takes education. And I'm glad you're getting someone that'll be able to come in and build a program or a system internally that will actually make it come to fruition.
Yeah.
Because in this part, it just got added to someone else's job, and that was one more thing, and that doesn't work.
And got to the point where if it's not working that way, you're not getting the money to make it worthwhile to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
All right, so your goal is to make enough money to hire somebody to run this efficiently and still make money.
She'll hold you to that.
Yeah, that is our goal.
That is our goal.
I can go on the record there.
All right, well, thank you very much. And we'll move that along for a vote next meeting. So now I'm moving on to 5.04, the curb replacement at Elmwood Academy.
Yeah, this and the next
Which
one.
is misspelled, by the way. Where's our spelling bee?
This and the next one, Mr. Hoffman will take us through two of our capital reserve items that you saw on the list way back when. But now we're actually bringing forward for first bids.
Yes, thank you. So the Elmwood Academy curb replacement is a project we've been discussing for a number of years. The bids came back very favorable, under budget, with a very good contractor. So we're excited about that. It's a contractor we've used before, very reputable. So we are in favor of moving this forward. Any questions on that?
Any explanations to why those bids are so far apart?
I think it's probably due to it's a smaller project and a lot of the contractors kind
It's just gonna drag us out here, we're gonna,
throwing some numbers out there to see if they might get a low bid, but thankfully we had a good amount of contractors bid on it, so we're really happy with it.
I think this is probably a good place to just mention too, when we do work alongside our engineer, Barry Isett and Associates, you can see them on there. They're part of the vetting process for us, and so when we get all the bids in, even on bid day, then Mr. Hoffman is engaging with them to say, how do we feel about the bids? They're reaching out to the low bid contractor to make sure they understood everything. I think that sounds intuitive, but the conversation is important. As we bring forward a recommendation, we're doing some additional things to make sure that we're comfortable with the price. And then as I think as Mr. Hoffman also mentions, especially with the smaller projects, sometimes the contractors are just so busy, they'll give you the, I'll make it worth my while price.
Right.
So not saying they're not being serious about it, but they're gonna add some extra in there, and then if you happen to pick them, if not, they have a full schedule as it is, and they are kind of going on about their way.
Can I ask you, there's actually two companies here making up the final project total.
Yeah.
What is the Barry Islet and Associates?
There I said, they're our engineering firm. So they do design, they assist with the bidding process, project management, they do the surveying, the head of the project. It's a lot that goes into it.
So as a professional service, we use Crabtree as our architect, we use Barry Isett as our engineer, and they help us on different projects, depending on what it is, right? So in this case, we didn't need architect services necessarily, we just needed the engineer to help us in terms of bids and so forth, bid prep, document prep. And so as we like to present the low bid to the board, which in this case is excavating, we also like to share the estimated price of the engineer to say, here's the total project costs, and how does that kind of compare back to what we were budgeting with the capital reserve fund? Because
So what were we budgeting?
we were budgeting, sorry, I had it open here, $156,000.
Good job.
How often are the engineering contracts and architecture contracts up for renewal? Like how?
Yeah, we don't necessarily have a term. It's more of an ongoing. We don't necessarily have a frequency either. So like it's not like some of our procurement where every year we're looking at some kind of new arrangement with our professional services, like our solicitor, our architect, our engineer. It's more periodic based, I would say. When we look at those things, we also like to look at. We don't necessarily always have to go to like an RFP to know that we're getting good value because, one, with our professional services, we're happy with the vendors, and if there are ever issues, we would recommend to the board to like maybe look at a little differently at what other vendors might be out there. But also we do benchmarking internally, among the IU with our colleagues, whether that's other facilities directors or other business managers, CFOs. We're saying, hey, what do you pay for architect services, or what do you pay for engineering services? And that's another way to cross-check and say, we feel comfortable with the ongoing relationship with our solicitor or engineer or architect versus every year trying to put the auditors out to bid or out to RFP. So
I guess what I'm asking then, to take it a step further, is why are we voting on like Barhat excavating, but we didn't vote on Barry Isett?
Yeah, so we don't vote project by project for the professional services. It's really based on time and materials. And so in the case of the engineer, they are the district's engineer, just like Crabtree Worval is the district's architect. But they only bill us based on the project-based work that they do. So we're not like on a fixed fee arrangement with the engineer or solicitor. It's more as we use them, project by project. This is the estimated cost, or this is the cost we expect to incur. So.
Does anybody have any more questions on the curb replacement? All right, we'll move on to 505, the storage HVAC at Elmwood Elementary, or Academy.
Yes, so similarly, these bids came in under budget with a reputable contractor who have used before, and very excited and comfortable to move forward with these bids.
Can you tell us what what we thought this was going to cost?
$130,000.
Anybody have any questions on that? All right, we'll move it along for the meeting next 2 weeks from now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thanks for being here the whole night.
Our sole person, I think you should sit back down there.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
Or not, yeah. All right, so moving along, we have nothing under facilities and we have nothing under personnel. And moving on to number 8, policy. We have 3 readings here, first readings of policy.
And Mr. Longwell will be taking a couple, and then Dr. Bowman will be taking a couple.
So 006 and 903 are a little bit related in that both dealing with school board meetings. I would say they're both being updated based on PSBA's guidance, but also guidance from the solicitor, some case law changes, especially post-pandemic, I would say in the last 2, 3, 4 years. There's just been some different aspects of the Sunshine Law that's changed, or best practices, recommendations around public participation in board meetings. The first one, 006, you'll see that some of the changes revolve around just some clarity on where we post the agendas, also some updates on the number of affirmative votes that are required, and and then just agenda assembly.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Dr. Bowman?
Oh, sorry, 903, I'll mention quickly. The changes there were around public participating in board meetings, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just mention in full disclosure, you'll see in the edited version, I'm not finding the page right now, where it went from 5 minutes to 3 minutes.
It's page two, PDF 2, it's in the about midsection down.
Yes, page 2, yeah, there's a red section about 3 paragraphs down and then a green section after. We've been in practice using 3 minutes as our time for years, I believe, ever since the pandemic. Maybe that's when we changed to 3 minutes. 2 3-minute public comment periods, 1 before the meeting for items that are appearing on the agenda, and a 3-minute period at the end for items that are not. So we're, among the other changes here, we're making that change to officially make it in policy to 3 minutes. So didn't want to suggest that we're sneaking a time change in there. That's just with what we've done in practice, but in policy it's actually been 5 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Benson. Glad you highlighted that.
It said that originally we had 30 minutes, but it's kind of always been open-ended as far as I ever remember from until COVID came and we actually had several, lots of people here to talk about COVID with us, but okay, so the policy's set for that. Right now, Dr. Bowman.
Yeah, so policy 320 is addressing freedom of speech by employees. You'll see that was a title change from the former of non-instructional settings. I thank Mrs. Status, she did prepare this. I'm just presenting on her behalf tonight. Looking at the changes in the policy, you'll note that the PSBA recommendations really kind of alter the language in the sense that it paints a clearer picture of what the employee might do that would constitute an impact on efficiency or a reasonable likelihood to cause a disruption in the employment environment. So it really is different in the wording, but when you read it, it's much more clear as to what might violate the freedom of speech policy.
Yeah, I think they've made it much more usable than what it was before.
For sure.
Does anybody have any questions on that one? All right, seeing no questions, we'll move those along for voting. And we have nothing under technology, so I guess we can adjourn the meeting. Meeting's adjourned.